What's up, everybody? It's Joe and Taylor coming to you from Las Vegas, as always, and joining us here today from across the entire country. She's on the right coast, as we call it. Veronica Figueroa is coming from, she's Orlando, right? V?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. But your team, the sun never sets on the Fig team. Like, where do you guys operate? Is it primarily Orlando, or are you have some satellite teams in other places?
It's primarily Orlando, but we're super excited. We just launched our Dallas operation. So
Awesome.
that's
Nice.
growing. And, we've got a great leader getting that off the ground. But yeah, Orlando's the main hub.
Yeah. So she's somebody that Taylor and I got to know through Curator, which is funny. It's like Curator was this almost like this high school we all went to. And now we're all doing different stuff. We all still have relationships, with Chris and Jimmy and those guys. But the when Taylor found Curator, we would have no idea the relationships that we'd make and the way that it would shape our business in the future, because there's so many people doing so many big things. And it was like 6, 7 years ago when Curator was at its apex, we didn't know the relationships we formed would become these like lifelong friendships and business relationships. And you're one of those people that Taylor and I are like, dude, V crushes it. And we're so lucky to know you and have you in our world.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm a big fan of you guys. I always have been ever since those days. You guys were always so ahead of your time. You guys, again, from a video I guess from your video production to your team and how you guys were, just crushing it in Vegas, like you were the who's who of Vegas, right? You wanted to know what was happening. Taylor group was team, and you really inspired a lot of us. And I'm so grateful that I got to know you during, like you said, those high school, college days of us growing up.
Yeah, exactly.
All grown up, and then we could say that's my buddy, or those are my buddies from back in the day. So the feeling is mutual. I've always been inspired by you guys.
So you were one of the first people we reached out to when we started looking at Reel. It was a new opportunity for us, and from an ecosystem standpoint, like we just weren't overly comfortable with virtual environment, revenue share, and like we've had mutual friends like come down really hard, like even recently on like this entire model, and there's so many misconceptions about it. But you were one of those people because you've crushed it at EXP. And like whenever somebody asks me about EXP, I'm like, how could I ever have anything negative to say about it? Veronica's there, right? But you were one of those people that offline we came to you and just said, hey V, like is it true? Is this type of ecosystem real? And so maybe talk a little bit about going back to your transition. I don't remember if you were KW or where you were when you made that move over to EXP, and you were an early adopter there, and it's just been a rocket ship for you. So maybe talk a little bit about kind of what led you to that world.
So I was Remax. I was the Remax, traditional broker owner, and just had a farm area, and we were doing our thing. But for me, I just saw what was happening, and I was like, I want more. I believe that this can work. I was seeing some of the leaders and some of the, I would say, people that I've looked up to in the industry moving over, or we're building really big businesses there. And I was like, do my due diligence, very much like you guys did. I called around some friends that perhaps were former executives at Zillow, former executives at Remax, former executives at other companies that I knew. And I called them. I was like, look, I just want to know, like, how does this work? How does this virtual real estate thing work? And I think it really was interesting, just how you can reimagine, right? They gave me permission to reimagine, because we were so wired to think the traditional way. You come to the office, you have to work out of an office. And I still have an office. I do. I choose to have an office, just very much like you guys. And what I love about the model that we're in, it allows you to choose how you want to do it, right? If you want an office, you can have an office. You want to, you want to be a branch leader, you can do so for a very small fee and continue to operate your business as you feel fit. Or you can have a hybrid, and some people said, I'm shutting it all down. I'm going to honor model. And it took a while for me to wrap my head around, like, how would my agents take it? What would it do to the walk-in traffic? What would it do to the people who knew that I was the Remax lady at that Remax office? And I sold my Remax office. So I had to have the ultimate faith in what we were doing. I was saying, okay, I'm going to sell my best office, my best location, and my company name was in my team name. So the logo, the balloon at the time was
Yeah.
in my name. So I was like, oh, and I have to overcome it. Everybody knows me as the Remax lady. In a
Yeah.
town where I pretty much had market share. I
Hmm.
dominated market share. But I said, if I'm going to do this, I've got to go all in and trust the fact that this model is designed to be exponential and bigger than just the hyper local and bigger than just a reach that you have in a particular zip code.
Right.
I just started exploring it. And one of my mentors told me, and at first I said, this is never going to work. But then I had this moment of, just someone said to me, don't, say yes until you have a reason to say no. So everything that they were sharing with me, I was like, I could see how that could work. Wow, that sounds really interesting. And it really opened up my eyes because sometimes we're the bottleneck to our own business, right? We can't see
Yeah.
past our own limited beliefs and what we see. And I was like, on the other side of that, what if this does work? What if everything
Yeah.
else doesn't work? And that's one day my husband and I just had this conversation. We says, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? We'll just go back to the traditional model. Mhm.
So what's been the biggest, like, we deal with a lot of misconceptions, right? In this type of ecosystem, we deal with it at Real, you deal with it at EXP. There's other players in the space now. What would you say is the number one thing that people misunderstand about what you've done or what you're doing, and the ecosystem, the virtual revenue share based agent attraction model? Like, what is something that people think it is that it's actually completely opposite or different?
Yeah, I think I have a number of things,
Mm.
right? And I some of them will speak to the masses, and then some of them will speak to maybe the
Yeah.
team leader and the broker owner, who is usually who I speak to a lot. Number one, oh, you're just a recruiting company. That's been debunked.
Right.
Like, listen, there is no revenue share if there's no production. And I remember
Right.
there's a video circulating where I said this about 3 years. Not only will we be the largest, but we will be the most productive. I wanted to be with a productive company, and I know when
Right.
I came to this company, I was on a mission to say the most productive agents are who I want to be in business with, or the most productive teams. And, I don't want to be known as the icky recruiting person, right? That wasn't even me the first 6 months I came over. I didn't even like, someone was like, dude, I thought you were, I was like, I don't even know how to recruit, dude. I was like, I was a team leader. So like the fact that we came over just to recruit and like, only cared about, revenue share, like that was like icing on the cake. I didn't even understand that. I'm not even that smart. I'm
Right.
not even that
Right.
smart to figure out it would have added up. So I was just like, I'm just going to come because I want to be able to scale my business and expand without any type of, limited areas of expansion. And I really want to be around great leaders and producers that, we can share our business practices.
Yeah.
So one of the things was like, we're just a recruiting company. That's not true. Number two, the other thing was like, what's in it for my team? I understand it's something that's beneficial for me as a team leader, but what's in it for my team if they're not the team leader, or if they don't care about stocks, or they don't care about
Hmm.
building a downline, or they don't care about revenue share. And I'm like, oh my God, that there's so much education, so much training. It's doing the same thing that you're doing today that you would normally do at any other brokerage, but like pouring just like gasoline on it, right? And
Yeah.
now having this ecosystem and this community of people that we're owners together. We want to lift this company up together, right? And I think it was funny because back in the days, you'd see someone sitting with, your competitor, or they were sitting, and it's actually starting to come back. We're starting to see a much more cutthroat industry again, which I thought we've
Right.
done a really good job over the last few years. I would say the last 7, 8 years, you saw a lot of unity in the industry, but it's kind of going back to those days of like sitting across the table and you're like, oh no, that's that company, or that's that company.
Yeah.
Um, so it's funny now, the people who at one point were my competitors before we moved over, like my agents will go to their office and learn from them, and they'll come to our
Hmm.
office and learn from each other. And that in itself, I've seen so many people's business grow just because the collaboration truly has been a part of the value proposition. My
Yeah.
agent yesterday, one of my top agents on my team sits on our state advisory board. She doesn't have to
Mm.
be the team leader. She does never owned a brokerage, but she's a leader. And this has given her a platform to show up as a leader. And my operations director, who helped us build a really robust onboarding process, and that we have people call us from all over the country now because we've shared it with leadership, she was invited to be on the operations advisory council. Like, this is
Mm.
truly a platform where our agents have the same opportunity than we do, where before the old brokerage model wouldn't allow that. It was like we were the top and we decided what you can participate
Yeah.
on here. Here we're all one. And some of us obviously choose different paths. Some of us want to be a little bit more involved than others. But what I love is that equal opportunity, different results. But everyone has the same opportunity here to tap into all
Yeah.
the resources. So I just, it's one of the things, and like I said, there's tons of misconceptions, but those are just a few that come to light, right?
Well,
But
and I think it's funny because this is on the top of my mind because a friend of ours, and I'll actually send it to you offline, a friend of ours created a video from their brokerage perspective, and it was just really antagonistic against this model, right? And it was just like, they'll take anybody and we'll only take certain people, and like all they care about is recruiting, and we actually care about your life and your production. I'm like, how can you even say that? Like, do you understand the number of calls that Veronica is on, the number of training meetings that Veronica is on, constantly trying to improve the lives of the agents? Do you understand that this entire ecosystem exists on the premise that we need to improve our agents' lives and production in order to help them be successful? And so it's just funny to me because there are these it's almost like the older I become, and Taylor and I have talked about this before, the older I become, the less I can say I would never, or I can judge people for the decisions they made, because I find myself, given similar circumstances, I make the same. Like, I know for us, looking when we owned our independent brokerage here in Las Vegas 3-4 years ago, when someone would approach us from EXP, I would always say, like, just go do business. Who cares about recruiting? And then I got into the ecosystem and I'm like, holy crap, there are people in our world now who their production is really suffering because of, interest rates are higher than we'd like them to be and whatever. And they're supplementing their income from the little bit of agent attraction they've done. And so, like, the most selfish thing I could have done was stay where I was in the past, to where now it's like they come to me and they're like, I'm so grateful I have this, because the last couple of months have been really tough. But that additional revenue source of revenue share has really made an impact on my life. And so, Taylor, I don't know, what are your thoughts on this? Because you and I have had to have this big mind shift around this ecosystem, because 3 or 4 years ago, I think we were both pretty passionately like, we're team independent brokerage. Like, we could never see ourselves in that larger ecosystem.
Yeah, I think when you were talking about when you left Remax, it's funny because when you first get into the real estate industry, the brand is bigger than life. Remember when I got licensed, and I think, I started with Joe as a buyer's agent in late 2004 to early 2005. And like, Remax was everything. That balloon was my whole world. And so I think there's this moment, and when you realize it's not, the brand is important. The brand offers tools and it has software and it has some cool systems and some cool models. But there's a moment when you realize it's you, like it's all on your shoulders to either make it work or not work. And the brand is a nice, helpful place to build that world. But I think so for us, and I'm probably a slower adapter to new ideas and new concepts than Joe is. I think he's very easy to see the opportunity and to just go all in on it. And mindset, if it doesn't work, we can always, shift and adapt, and we'll keep thriving no matter where we are. But so for me, when we had started our independent brokerages, it was kind of like we evolved from Remax to indie brokerage, that we created these amazing indie brokerages with hundreds of agents. And so then to leave all that behind and shift to this, not only was it a completely different brokerage, but it was a completely different model. It took me a minute to wrap my mind around it. But then I just reflected back on, no matter where you're at, no matter what choices you're making, if you put in the effort and you work really hard, you can kill it pretty much anywhere. But what I love about this model is if you work really hard and crush it in this model, it exponentially nonlinear reward you for your efforts. Where in some of those other traditional brokerage models, you can still work really hard and do well, but you don't get rewarded with 15 other revenue streams and income sources coming in. So I just love the fact that with, with the type of models that we all belong to, if you put in the effort and put your best foot forward, and you truly are the best version of you, then it just creates this crazy cool world with all kinds of other revenue streams.
Yeah, and I think
Oh,
that, I mean, if you look at the brokerage model, nothing's really changed other than, you know, there's now this financial incentives where before most brokerages still grew because an agent was happy and they helped another agent, or they inspired someone and they says, hey, I'm going to get into the business because of you, or I see you're crushing it. Can I join your office? And I remember when I was a broker owner, I had a lot of agents say, hey, my friend wants to join our office. Can I set up a call with you? And I was like, sure. We would see if there was a cultural alignment. We would talk. I would try to see if, what was, what their dreams were, what was important to them. And some were a good fit for us, not a good fit for us. But I would say my little humble Remax office that grew to 52 agents, grew because of the result of us impacting our agents' business, helping them grow their business, and them people seeing that they were happy. It's no different here. Now we have a financial incentive that isn't meant to say, don't be productive. It's meant to say, hey, thanks. We're in this together. We're building this together. And, the way I look at it is like, this has always been how brokerages grow, right? It's just different who's getting compensated now. I do believe that we're going to see more of that, because I think, of our founding fathers of the rev share, we proved to be, to be one that is very lucrative when you bring value. It's different for people. I have people who have said, this really just helped me with my mortgage payment. Oh my God, this helped. Even one of the agents on my team, when we talk about the little story, she says, this paid for me and my daughter's dream vacation. I was able to take her to Hawaii, didn't have to tap into my savings or my commissions or anything. This was just a really nice way. She said, thank you, Veronica. One of my other agents who's on my team, he loves flipping. And when I showed him how to open his dashboard and when the stock was doing really, really well, and he opened it up, he's like, I don't even know what I have. And I was like, let me sit you down. Let me show you. He opened it up. He looked at his wife. He was like, we're buying another flip today. And, like things, right? It's just the little wins for people to say, like, thank you. I'm not just dependent on that last closing. Because what do they say about our industry, right? You're only as good as your last deal. Well, this changes things, right?
Yeah.
If you can impact lives and you can help people, it's the gift that keeps on giving, so long as you're bringing value.
So talk about this, Veronica. Like Taylor and I have long been very independent in our business model, in that like we are self-source lead generation. We personally have always kind of stayed away from the Zillows, the realtor.coms, the homes.com. Like even with Curator in their marketing efforts, we were always like, no, we got it. We're good. Right. Like, I think maybe it's just the wild, wild west in me or whatever. I'm like, I want to know that I can control this myself. But some of our greatest business partners, like Spring Benson's a big Zillow Flex partner, and I know you are or were a big Zillow Flex partner. Like what is kind of at the heart of the Figueroa team? Like, what do you guys, are you still really bullish on the Zillow Flex situation? Are you like, how do you generate? Because you guys crush it. I don't know unit wise what 2023 looks like. If you're anything like us, it's down a little bit from 2022. But what is kind of at the heart of your business when an agent comes to work with you? Like, what is the Figueroa way of doing business?
Yeah. So, we had to face a real hard truth in our business, maybe a little bit before most did, because we were the Zillow instant offers, Zillow offers team, right? And that really took over our business. I'm super grateful for the opportunity. It really was a unique opportunity that gave us so much, I would say, so much runway. to build
Yeah.
something. And I will forever be grateful for that. I mean, we were the team that also helped beta test instant offers. Whatever the
Mhm.
outcome was, we learned a lot. But when it was time to sunset that, we said, okay, what is this going to look like for our business? Because we were building it around a lot of that infrastructure. But what people don't know is prior to that, we were a homegrown farming team. You know, we were
Yeah.
belly to belly, elbow to elbow, community events, you know, dialing, prospecting our sphere, and doing what a great, I think, real estate foundation should look like. And we got a little bit away from the things that got us there. And I'm humble enough to admit that. But we still had enough of community reputation, notoriety, credibility that we even when half of our business was Zillow offers, the other
Mhm.
800 transactions that we were doing were still sphere based, you know, dialing through our database and doing all the things that, again, most great agents should do. Then add in, of course, interest rates changing, Zillow offers sunsetting, and all the things that were happening in our economy. We had to look at our team and say, what does the next iteration of the FIG team, what's that going to look like, right? So
Yeah.
I'm very proud to say that over the last 6 months, our leading source has been Sphere and outbound prospecting in our database. And Zillow has, you know, Zillow is still a strong partner for us. We value that
Yeah.
relationship. Do we want it to be 100% of our business? No, I wouldn't recommend that
Yeah.
to anyone. I don't think you should have any one source be 100% of your
Mhm.
business. I come from the REO days. I know a lot of people who got out of the business because they were too dependent on that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac account, or you know, and then the minute that went away, you know, it's like they went out of business or they had to reinvent themselves. So for me, I've always been maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead. I could, you know, have really good like real estate
Yeah.
intuition. I was like, all right. So now like we have this very heavy, robust seller campaign. I'm excited to unveil something later on today on social media. So
Yeah, check it out.
a, you know, a strategic messaging, because we have been practicing and really fine tuning the seller options that we give our sellers, and really with everything happening with obviously the lawsuits and everything, we understand
Mhm.
that, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, but one thing we know is we are strong listing agents. We are very,
Yeah.
very strong listing agents and really great buyer experts that can help you negotiate. We have a database of over 150,000, you know, clients who have raised their hand, and it's not just Zillow. So for us right now, it's going back to obviously what we know works, and this time around, not getting away from it, while still balancing the partnerships of, you know, we've got strong partnerships with Ojo. We're the number one UpNest partner in Orlando. We've got a nice mix between, you know, a couple different portals because they trust us. Realty.com, we're the exclusive Realty.com partner in Orlando, and that, you know, generates tons of sellers for us, tons of
Mm.
buyers for us. And it's pretty much training ground for our agents to understand, to have better conversations. So our agent development program comes out of that. And, you know, it's a nice mix between online lead gen, video marketing campaigns, things that we do to stay in front of the community, while also helping our agents develop their sphere, build a brand, and know that we are not going to be dependent on one lead source. We're going to go out there and determine our own economy.
Well, and I think that that's in like it's such a great topic because I've been so passionate about the necessity of independence for so long. Like what scares me about some of the lead aggregation sources, especially heading into this new economy that could be coming, we don't know what's going to come down from the federal courts and whatever. I'm always afraid that if not to name anything specific, but if I was with XYZ lead gen, you know, and it was like 35% off the top. And I built my entire team around that, and they go, "Hey, it's now 40."
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, it's
okay, like what am I going to say? Yeah, it's now 45 or it's 50, and like at some point, like if I build my entire business based on that, where the only sense of security I have is around being able to hunt, and like not to say to your point, if somebody brings some potatoes to the table and they bring some bread to the table, it's not like we're not going to eat it. But we also can never lose, and I love that you said that, like our identity as hunters. Like we have to be able to create for ourselves. On the
So right
topic, I
now,
mean, go
next
ahead.
door, we have 3 different shifts of our agents dialing together. with the performance coach there, and they're, all
Yeah.
three of our success coaches are next door with them every day, Monday through Thursday, having conversations, dialing through the pond. We call them, it's not the sexiest name, but we call it the pits, and it means productivity, intentional time together, productive
Yeah.
time together. And we're sitting there having conversations, role playing, practicing our cash offer scripts, practicing our, all the different conversations that we run into, so that we can
Yeah.
become sharper. We can help guide people through their situations. And what do wins look like? Wins don't necessarily mean it's a closing. Wins can mean an appointment. Wins can mean,
Right.
a referral. It can mean that, hey, you know what? Can you send me that CMA? And do we want to say CMA, or are we equity analysis experts? Like we want, to guide people. So next door, that's what's happening. And that's not dependent on waiting for someone to give us a lead. We're going to hunt in the database. And that happens every single day on our team. And we don't do enough of a good job to showcase that because we keep our heads down. But I will tell you,
Yeah.
usually the results show up.
Well, let me ask you this. So you deal with a similar issue we deal with in Vegas, and Taylor, you and I have talked about this a lot. Like the competition of the strip for talent is a real issue for us. And other people in other markets don't understand this, right? If we were operating our team in Denver, there's not a lot of growth, like state domestic product that is competition for talent. However, in Orlando, you really do have tourism, theme parks, and things like that, where people are like, do I want to hit the pits, or do I want to go be like a performer at Disney World? And like that is competition. Universal Studios is competition for talent. So like, how do you attract agents to your team, knowing that, because there is that in a lot of ecosystems, there's not as much local opportunities to create income with your personality. In Vegas, it works. In Orlando, it works. There's a few markets, maybe Miami has that same issue, but like Orlando and Vegas are very similar in that good personalities can go make money outside of the sales environment on the strip or in the theme parks. Like, how do you guys, I don't know if you've ever dealt with that issue, or if that's something you guys actively try to show people that are good people, like there's a world outside of the theme parks.
Yeah. And I think that we do a really good job on flipping the script on them. And if an agent has that magic, that secret sauce, you're like, wow, they've got the X factor, right? We're going to develop them. We're going to pour into them. We're going to give them some wins as quickly as possible, because we really want them to taste it and know that, look, I know the biggest challenge in real estate is, right, usually that first 6 to 9 months where you're like, am I going to make it? But once they have that like crack, right? And so, like our thing is like, let's crack them open early on, right? And that's going to help determine if they, they've got what it takes, not only the personality, but the stamina, the mindset, the habits. Can they weather the storm, right? But we do enough of, I would say, career analysis with them that there's some people that we thought, oh, this person's a winner. This is a winner. And Eric, our COO, may have met, he's like, y'all think that you think that personality is what's going to determine if they're a winner? I say their habits, right? Let's see how they show up. Are they showing up? And then when we start doing that career analysis, we start realizing, hey, listen, you need discipline in this business. You need consistency. It's not just personality. Like, and some people with that personality, they struggle when there's no guardrails. They need massive accountability. And at least some agents come into this business and they think, I work whenever I want. I have no boss, and and it's true, but they maybe have a spouse that brings in that secondary income, or they're the primary income. So we look at all those things, right? But we're the first to tell someone, Joe, you know what? You're a rock star, man. And, I love that you wanted to have a career in real estate. You watched a lot of HGTV, but there's a lot of important ingredients that come into having a successful real estate career. And maybe we're just not the team for you. Or maybe a career in real estate is not for you. And we have these breakups where I call them freeing up their future, and they're hugging us. They're thanking us. And I've had people tell me, the passion that you have for real estate made me realize that I'm not that passionate, and maybe I need to pursue something else. And I feel like that's a win. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste their time, because I've actually said to people, How long before the business puts you out of business? How many months do we have to work with? And are you willing to do all this? Because if not, it's too much stress. I'm like, don't let this business put you out of business. Now, a lot of times people think personality is all you need. And I'm here to say that is not all you need. There's a lot more to this. And I mean, personality is super important, has to be a part of the formula, but it's the discipline and the habits and the showing up. And if they don't want to do that, go to Disney, go to Rosen, go to theme parks. Like you're gonna be amazing over there. And I hope that I can at least speak truth to people and let them know that they don't have to try to be somebody that they're not. And real estate will expose you really quick.
Yeah. Well, V, what is the next? I know you're unveiling something today. We won't make you do that here, but what does the next year look like for you guys? What does 2024 look like for the Fig team?
You know what? Keeping our heads down, just going all in. We definitely are committed to helping agents who might feel alone and scared and uncertain. We want to help that agent that's been in the business maybe a couple years, had a couple good years, had a nice little run, but now during times like this, they're looking up and they're like, what do I do next? This is what we're built for. This is the market that we're built for. So we're really super excited to help agents. Fig team is on a mission. I throw out this number, and again, maybe it's too much of a BHAG, but we're hoping to be at about 120 to 150 agents. We want to impact 120 to 150 agents' lives in the Orlando Central Florida market. And now that we're also expanding into Dallas, we've got a couple more cities that we just got the the green light that we're getting ready to launch in, and we found those leaders. So growing with strategic leaders and helping really great agents who are culturally aligned with us be a part of it, because we don't want to leave any of them behind, and we don't want them to think that they can't thrive in this market. This is the market where what I call separation season, where the winners really rise, and it's a product of their environment.
I love it. Well, there was this moment, V, when I came to see you in Orlando. I came to your office and Phil Jones was there, and I always looked at like these moments in athletics where like two people maybe playing for different teams would come together at the end of a game and like exchange a jersey, and they were like, dude, they're still my people, right? And I felt like we went to Real, we started to have some success. You were crushing it at EXP, and we hadn't seen each other in years, gave each other a big hug, and we're like, you're still my people. So it was like I am the biggest Veronica Figueroa fan. We're huge EXP fans. We love everything you're doing. We're place partners together. We didn't even have time to get into that, but just know that you got huge fans here in Vegas rooting for you. We're grateful for you. Big female entrepreneur fans. Like there's just too many guys like her and I in the world, like trying to whatever. It's like you and Spring and Amy Youngren. And there's like these female entrepreneurs that were just like, dude, we're all in. They're the best.
Well, I'm a huge fan of you guys too. And it doesn't matter what brand we're at, guys, we got to stick together more than ever. I think Ben and Chris said it best. It's not brand agnostic, it's brand inclusive. We are in this industry together. And I feel so blessed to consider you guys a friend. I know I can phone a friend, whether I had a real question or an EXP question or an industry question, I can call you guys. And I feel like I just have that line to just really honest leaders. So thank you for everything you guys are doing. And I'm cheering for you guys. I'm cheering for you guys as well. So
appreciate it.
Keep crushing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon, guys.